So now what I'm going to do is show a little PowerPoint presentation on Africa, and then I'm going to come up a little bit later and show about the contributions of all groups to America. It's my nonprofit, Ending Stereotypes for America. Now this is not Africa. This is the typical image you see of Africa. The Bushmen, the Maasai, the Pygmies. These people represent about 0.001% of Africa's population. About 1% since pre-colonial times. Yet that's 99% of the images I saw growing up about Africa was those people. This is the real Africa. This is a painting of a 14th century king. From the 14th century, the painting was made, who ruled over a kingdom larger than Western Europe, almost as large as the continental United States. Had 30, 40 million people, its own currency, two of the most famous universities of its time. Foreign writers would talk about how this was one of the most advanced, most moral, safe kingdoms in the world. Here are some quotes about his empire. A famous Syrian scholar said its inhabitants are rich and live comfortably. One man who traveled to China, to India, all throughout North Africa, down the east coast of Africa, all throughout the Middle East, the last place he went to was this black kingdom named Mali. And he said, of all people, they most abhor injustice, complete and general safety one enjoys throughout the land. Completely destroying the stereotype that my friends had that maybe black people were more inclined to commit crimes than other groups. Destroys that stereotype. And another man, a European, a famous European from the 16th century, wrote that in one of their cities, more profit is made from the book trade than any other line of business. Yet you never heard about writing in Africa. Here's some more images from his kingdom. Now, what do we think about when we think about Ethiopia? We always think about the starving, the poverty, that kind of thing. Well, ancient Ethiopia was considered the third most powerful kingdom by ancient writers. This is a castle from ancient times. They were considered behind Rome and Persia, but ahead of China. They had their own currency. They developed their own written language. They controlled the Red Sea trade for a period of time. They even conquered part of the Arabian Peninsula and ruled over the Arabian Peninsula for 300 years. You can never hear about this kingdom. It was also the first kingdom to convert to Christianity. Out of all the kingdoms in the world, Ethiopia was the first as a whole to embrace Christianity. And they also invented coffee, which I can definitely appreciate. In Nubia, you may have heard of Nubia, or it's called Kush in the Bible for the most part. This was one of the most powerful kingdoms. It was right below Egypt. It defeated Roman, Greece, Persian, Assyrian armies. It developed its own alphabet also, which was more advanced than the Egyptians because it had vowels, not just consonants. And it ruled over the largest kingdom ever in Africa when this man conquered Egypt. He and his family ruled over Egypt for over 100 years. Now in the Old Testament, Black Africa is mentioned all the time. Isaiah wrote that it was a land of sailing ships, to a people dreaded near and far, a nation strong and proud. That man that I just showed you, his name looms large in the Bible because when Israel was under attack from the Assyrians, he sent his troops up to defend Israel and the Assyrians were defeated. He may have changed world history. The Assyrians wanted to wipe Israel off the face of the map, but that black Nubian king changed history. Also, Moses married a Cushite woman. Now writing. You never hear about writing in Africa. 3 different black kingdoms developed their own systems of writing. Many other people had other types of writing systems. But who do we see? These people. These people. Nothing wrong with these people, but they represent such a small part of Africa. But you might think, well, maybe there's just more than in Europe or in Asia or other parts of the world. Not so fast. There are currently 100,000 Sami people in the Scandinavian countries that live in small huts like that. They're nomadic people. They're hunters and gatherers. There are only a combined 200,000 Bushmen and Pygmies. Yet we don't focus on these Sami people and ignore the great European civilizations like Rome and Greece, Spain and England. But that's what we do with Africa and its bad history, and it reinforces these false stereotypes that affect our nation. This is the real Africa, with castles, with advanced architecture, with great art. That's the real Africa. And that's what I'm trying to get out to the public, to the young. And we actually just had one major step. A couple of years ago, I went to a couple of lawmakers, Representative Mike Knopf and Representative Brenda Clack, a Democrat and a Republican. And I tried to get them to introduce a piece of legislation that would encourage schools to teach about the advanced kingdoms of black Africa, not the primitive people. And they agreed. But when we went to introduce it, we could only get about 20 co-sponsors. I mean, people literally laughed at us. They said, what is this fake Afrocentric history you're trying to talk about? Come on, what is this? So we had to take a step back, go back, and we had to educate members one by one. We reintroduced it, and literally within the first 2 hours, we had 67 co-sponsors, more than we even needed to get the pass. And then it was looking like it wasn't going to go through the Senate, With a week left, it finally passed the Senate, and on the very last day of session, Governor Granholm signed the bill into law. So now our young are much more likely to be educated about this kind of Africa right here than the primitive Africa. And I think it's going to have a major effect on their belief system and on our country. Thank you.